Sports Jam's Questions of the Week.
After 268 games, what streak came to an end this week?
Why is the Alabama Crimson Tide going to blow out your LSU Tigers?
And Tony La Russa did retire after winning the World Series, but why is everyone so surprised about it?
Sounds like we need some answers. Let's start the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Sports Jam. I'm Stephen Peffer alongside Chad Satera Rob Steele. The big game's upon us. We've been waiting for it all year.
The snowflakes are flying in the Northeast, and the football is about to be played in the Southeast. I'm ready for some football, Stephen. I'm excited. Number one and number two.
Yeah, but it's not going to be a game, Chad.
How can you say it's not going to be a game? Are you kidding me? Seriously, I know you are a big Alabama fan, but you've got to be kidding me. LSU comes in as the number one team in the nation. They are awesome when it comes to high-pressured situations. They've proven it already this year many times.
I'll agree with you there, but we're playing in Tuscaloosa. If they were playing in Baton Rouge, I would say it'd be a close game, but it's going to be a blowout.
You know, here we go again. LSU, you're saying it's because it's in Alabama. And don't get me wrong, I respect both teams. Both teams, when you look at them, if this was January and these two teams were to be playing, there'd be an awesome game. You have a very difficult time finding a weakness in both teams. So what we're doing here is we are going to find the strengths of both teams. And I got the lucky straw of taking LSU because I think their strengths are so much greater than Alabama. When you sit there and say it's in Tuscaloosa, LSU beat Oregon in a neutral field, away from home. They beat neutral. So what if it's
that's
neutral?
not
it's
home field?
They beat a team that was just in the national championship game. It doesn't matter if it's neutral or not.
Last year,
they took the best running back in the nation and held him and the rest of that team under 100 yards in the opening game of the season without their starting quarterback. LSU, that's test number one. Test number two, September 15th, they beat Mississippi State on the road. Should I continue?
Mississippi State, what's their record? About 2-80?
At the time, they were ranked 25th in the nation.
At the time, Alabama's record was 1-0, so they're the best team ever. What are you talking about? That doesn't matter.
It does.
Mississippi State's horrible.
But it's still on the road. That's the thing. When you go week in, week out in the SEC, it doesn't matter who the records are. It doesn't matter if you have to go to their home and you have to beat them, which LSU did. That is a strong case for why they are the number one team in the nation.
Are you telling me that if they go to play Austin Peay in Clarksville, Tennessee, that it's going to be a big game for them?
They're not in the same conference. Good argument. Won't work in this one right here, okay? They went to West Virginia, the best team in the Big East, and beat them soundly.
Chad, Big East? That's a joke. They went to Syracuse and got beat down. Then Syracuse lost last week to Austin Peay.
Well, Louisville.
How many teams are in the Big East?
2 or 3.
Okay.
What they got left. But still, they trounced the defending national champions in Auburn 45-10 just 2 weeks ago.
The defending national champions don't have a quarterback anymore, which is...
Thank you, Rob.
Rob, aren't you the baseball guy?
I'm just throwing it out.
He said he's the baseball guy. And is so.
I'm the baseball guy, and I can figure this stuff out.
Thank you.
Then again, the other argument that Alabama is going to win is not all that convincing either. So I think it's going to end in a 4-4 tie.
He loves that 4-4.
It's going to happen sometime, damn it.
You know, Google it. While we're arguing here, Google and see if there's ever been a game 4-4 tie.
Not with my net connection.
All right, Steven, come on. Alabama, you said they're going to blow them out. Why?
Let me tell you why. First of all, they're giving up 7 points a game. They're just giving up a touchdown a game. And Alabama's offense has progressed from the beginning of the year when they didn't know who the quarterback was. So now A.J. McCarron has sealed the deal and they've opened the playbook out. They are a balanced offense, and let me tell you why. They've passed for 1,827 yards. They've rushed for 1,834. You cannot defend both, and that is as balanced as you can get it.
That is very true. But the problem is LSU doesn't give up a lot of points either. LSU is ranked third in the nation and have only given up 11.5 points a game. 27 of them against Oregon in the opener. Take that game out, you're looking at the same identical defenses. I will give you, Alabama's a very fast defense. This game is going to get ugly real fast on whoever can smack the other one in the mouth harder.
So I mean the two coaches are going to go after it when they go out to shake hands?
Yes.
I would not be surprised if Les Miles and Nick Saban were to do that. They both have the arrogance of the whole football stadium is right on their shoulders of how much arrogance both of these gentlemen carry. Nick Saban has been touted as the master of Alabama. But then again, after you come in after Mike Shula has taken the program right to the ground, yeah, you should be that way. Les Miles followed behind Nick Saban at LSU and led LSU to a national title.
With Saban's players.
With 2 losses, too. So
with Saban's players.
You know, both these teams it's just sick. I mean, you look at the stats on both of these teams, and Stephen, we've talked about this game since September, saying this is going to be the game that decides at least one component of the national title. Alabama, don't get me wrong, they are a great team. They are at home. They should be favored. They probably, I'm not going to sit there and say probably. They should win this game based on what I'm saying here. They're at home. Everything is in their favor. But when you take that component of an LSU team who has proven they can win on the road, you've got to sit there and say, do not count LSU out. You're calling it an absolute blowout, which I don't see as anybody other than a big-time Alabama fan could sit here and say Alabama's going to blow them out. It's just, there's no way. There's nothing on paper. There's nothing out there that says Alabama's going to blow them out. If Alabama wins, it's going to be a close game.
They're at home. If they were in LSU, I could say it's going to be a close game. And LSU would probably win because home field has so much in this matchup. But let's go to the West Virginia game. LSU at West Virginia. They gave up 533 yards to West Virginia. Big East school. So Alabama can't do that with their balanced attack? They can't do that.
West Virginia did all of that in the third and fourth quarter when they were down by 30 points.
Oh, really?
LSU put in their JV squad.
It was a 7-point game till the middle of the third quarter, so
and then
I'm
LSU
confused.
blew them away, and then all of a sudden West Virginia decided to move the ball against the JV squad.
Let me give you a good stat real quick. Record after the bye week, playing an SEC game the next week, Alabama's 17-4-1, LSU's 14-11. Thank you.
That's a very good stat. Very, very good stat, Stephen. Let's look at a couple other things real quick, because, we could talk hype. Obviously, we know who we think's going to win these games. But what about past number ones versus number twos? Did you know that Alabama was involved in the last 2 number 1 versus number 2 non-bowl BCS championship games? Did you know that, Stephen?
I believe Alabama's my team, so yes, I do know that.
And the last time Alabama played in that game, number 1 versus number 2, they were ranked number 2, as they are now.
And what happened?
And it looks like they dominated.
Annihilated.
They annihilated. Who was that guy that was quarterbacking for that team?
Mr. Tim Tebow.
Yeah, we love that guy around here, don't we? This is getting deep. Hey, by the way, Rob, real quick, I know you and I talked before the show started. One quick Tim Tebow fact. What has he done that no other...
I found this out, and I was absolutely fascinated by it. Last week, Tim Tebow became the only Denver quarterback. Well, it was the first time Denver has ever won in Miami. John Elway never did it. Brian Griese never did it.
Who's Brian Griese? He's the color guy. So let's
He was their quarterback shortly after Elway, and for about like a week.
So,
and that's the only other Denver quarterback I can think of. So.
Denver's never won in Miami.
Yeah, Denver never won in Miami. That's an awesome stat. Awesome stat. All right, now let's go back to number ones versus number two. The best game in the most recent years over the last 6 years, and of course, you know I'm going to pull this one out.
Buffalo?
November, good call.
Close.
November 18th, 2006. Number one at the time, Ohio State defeated number two, Michigan, 42-39. On their way, of course, to a BCS championship game, which I believe they got slaughtered by
Florida.
Okay.
SEC, baby. What happened though? What happened after the loss? How was the rankings? Do you know that?
As far as who was one, who was two?
It stayed the same.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, we've got to talk about that. But let's go through some other real quick. I'm looking up. If you look down in the history of number ones versus number two in the regular season, I think of September 27th, 1986. Stephen, you were still in diapers. Rob, you were in high school or graduating high school. Brian Bosworth took his Oklahoma Sooners down to Miami and got beat by what was then the Heisman Trophy favorite, Vinny Testaverde, who, by the way, just retired in the NFL, I think. I don't know. He might still actually be on a roster.
I thought he was playing starting for Cleveland still.
He could be. I mean, Vinny Testaverde has met the time of anybody possible. I mean, then you've got other games, number one versus number two. You've got Notre Dame, who was number one back on September 16th. Rocket Ismail started what was his Heisman Trophy run. 24-19, they beat Michigan on September 16th, 1989. So memorable games, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, guys. The memorable games that we see, number one versus number two. That's why I don't see this game being a blowout, Stephen. As much as there's not many games, unless it's an SEC versus a Big Ten, aka Ohio State. Unless it's a number one versus number two that way, you're not going to see a blowout in this situation. It's just not going to happen.
Look, everybody wants it to be a close game. And on paper, it is a close game. But I'm telling you, Alabama's offense is so much more mature now. The playbook is open. They're so balanced. LSU cannot stop Alabama. It's going to be a close game for the first half. Alabama will take over second half. They'll win by at least 15 to 20 points. Because they're in Tuscaloosa, they have the fan base, like the fourth, fifth largest stadium now. They got like over 101,000 fan capacity, but they said 140,000 people are going to be there on campus. It's going to be crazy. Yeah. No way. Alabama's been waiting for this game.
Well, and they should have been waiting for this game. Last year, they choked, and they were the best team in the SEC last year, but they choked.
They had a young defense last year. Now the defense is mature. And it is showing with 7 points a game they're giving up. And they've went to Penn State and beat a Penn State in Happy Valley, which is hard to do. Penn State's only lost one game this year, Chad. Did you know that?
I did know that. Let's just say this. LSU has found a new starting quarterback in Jarrett Lee. He has done a pretty decent job. I mean, if you look at his stats, 63% completion percentage. He has 13 touchdowns and only one interception. He doesn't throw the ball for a lot of yards, but LSU is not a kind of team that throws or passes the ball or runs the ball for a lot of yards. They are the equivalent of a balanced team, but their defense is what's getting them the points. But let's say Jarrett Lee has an off day. Jordan Jefferson comes in. He was the starter last year. Jordan Jefferson is very talented and can lead that team to the promised land. So
can he? Did he beat Auburn last year when they had a chance to beat him?
Anybody beat Auburn last year?
But I thought he could lead him to the promised land. I thought he could lead him. What happened?
He's 1 year older. He's 1 year more mature this year. And he
got in a bar fight and got suspended for about 5 weeks. That's real mature of him.
And he has learned from that. I'm just saying this. If Alabama does play defense the way they're supposed to, and Jarrett Lee does struggle, you cannot count LSU out right away. Jordan Jefferson has the talent to where he can come off the bench and he can actually do something. He can actually even do it with his feet too. He does run on an average of 4.3 yards per carry, which, hey, every 3 downs, every 3 plays, he's going to get a first down. It's going to be a close game. I really think it's going to be. I really think